okay, well, what can you really do? They just need to find some sort of success and just kind of need to find the rhythm to get into the game and find that way to get that win under their belts.
For the roster, we see here for UN Esports, Canadian no-name Sonic, Sexy Dark Phantom EK, Helkerbex, I think is the way it's pronounced, in Minsk, which is a great reference to a Baldur's Gate 3 character, if that's what that's happening to go down for. Like you've said, trials and tribulations of other teams coming into this one, and UN Esports is the team that's kind of faced more tribulations than any successful trials up to this point. And you mentioned UFT for Western Mustangs and their victory that they managed to take in OT, well, in a third map series, I guess I should say. It also required 3 maps at a UN Esports, but they just couldn't close out that final map, falling 3-7 instead. For the Western Mustangs, it's Big P, aka Papa, I think is what they want to be called. Renoki, R6 Tracker, who also wants to be called something differently. I believe it's Skimzy. I will not remember that one. I profusely apologize. Beamer McLovin and Hishe to close out their roster.
Overall, this should be a very interesting matchup because, I mean, like we said, I still recognize some of these names, but overall, just both of these teams need to find some sort of win here because, I mean, you already dropped one because of a forfeit on the other end. Kind of haven't been able to find that one series win. So otherwise, both of these teams, in my eyes, are very evenly matched up. And their map pool, weirdly, is also weirdly matched up because they played all 3 of the same maps in their previous series. So going into the map bans, this is going to be very interesting to see if we're going to see something different, which it does look like that. We're going to see Border as our second map. But also, Chalet and Oregon are going to be some of the main series stays for both of these teams.
You know, we may have started very late here, Sirius, but at the very least, we get to start with my favorite map in all of R6, the oh-so-cool winter air of Chalet. Unfortunately, it does mean we have to follow suit with one of my least favorite maps in all of R6 right now, if not just because of the trauma that Border put onto me the moment it was released into the competitive pool. Right into the map selection when the game just didn't work, and even observing caused the entire game to crash, and you couldn't even get a single round going in if it didn't last 10 minutes long with 25 rehosts in the middle of a round. But at least the first map won't bring me any trauma, nothing but good memories here, as this is not the map we're heading to. We'll point that out here once again. It's over to the warm winter air, or the cool winter air, completely opposite there of Chalet. I'll also point out for the Western Mustangs, they are a very young team in the collegiate scene. All first years, bar Ben, I think, on their roster, who says they're a second year, but not playing here in this one, obviously, in this matchup. They are all freshmen, all first years in college, which means that if they're facing off against a more experienced, regime like UN Esports that has third years and fourth years in their team, you would maybe expect it to be a little bit more inexperienced, but they have the better record and are now heading to this one with higher expectations on both our shoulders here, Sirius, as well as probably the viewers, now that we've played the statistics of their wins to this point, that they're going to be able to take the win against this older, more experienced team.
And one would think, because the record that they have kind of betrays them, because who knows what would have happened if they were able to play that second series. Maybe it would have been a win for them, or it would have been a tight loss against their opponents, but that's not really for us to say. We're going into our map of Chalet, Dokkaebi, and Thatcher is going to be starting off our ban. So overall, it's kind of starting off with the normal kind of just nonchalant defaults that we normally see. Thatcher is a little bit less banned nowadays, but still, map like Chalet, it's very important to get him out of the way.
Finner will follow up in the first offensive ban, quite an annoying piece of utility having to deal with the toxic fumes that blind your sights. But if you try to play a little bit too far into those, it can be its own sort of undoing, a bit of a pro and con scenario for a lot of Finner remains out there. Removing that means you don't have to worry about it. It'll be a lot easier to swing through Ivy Door. Won't have to worry too much about Piano execute when you're trying to get past that shield that's more likely not placed on top of Piano, and you want to try to extend safely away from the reach of the player that's inside of Office. Solus will be that final defender that is banned out as well. Shockingly enough, you expect to see something like a Flores banned here, Sirius, on the attack for a map like Chalet, and yet we did not see it go through here, when I think every other time we've seen it here from the NECC, at least when it came to last week and the week prior, Flores was a very consistent ban in the NEC because of how strong and powerful those Rotero drones were at clearing space, controlling zones, and flushing players out from behind mirror windows, which typically go unbanned on this map.
I mean, it's almost kind of a blessing in disguise considering the fact that a zombie also sneaked her way through, which is another common ban just in general for this map overall. Not brought out this first round, but there's still a shield in the middle of Piano Hallway. So if they do bring out the floors, that's going to be a bit easier time to trying to clear out that position, take that control once that main wall is open. But still, overall, just kind of interesting to see that not even a Ying as well on top of that was banned out. So it's going to make things a lot more difficult for the attackers to try to open up these walls now that Thatcher is gone. But you still have to deal with the fact that Dokkaebi is also gone as well. You can't clear out many of these roamers who are just kind of extending out a little bit further, as we already see No Name kind of reinforcing off that library wall, trying to assert some pressure early on that side. But it seems that Western Mustangs are just going to try to completely ignore that.
An interesting decision as well to go for the Blackbeard. You anticipate the repels over here off towards Campfire Wood, where we're seeing that obviously is being played for BMX 11. You want to work in on this window side. It's good, but it also gives you feasible control with the Osa shield off towards Big Window, which is one of the main reasons why this objective, Office and Master Bedroom, is typically considered the weakest of actually the objectives on the map of Chalet, and yet is still heavily picked by a lot of teams and rosters. It's a good setup though for UN to hold this on defensively. A shield placed what would be considered backwards actually inside of T elbow means that you have safety and security from there, but this is usually just used as an outlet to deny T control so that when you move in towards Ivy, or if you truly want in the opposing side in from the north instead, you have diversifying angles and can quickly step into that space like mentioned before, where you typically would then have to worry about a Fenrir, which now you don't actually have to do so on this attack. So for UWL, they're going to quickly try to step in. I don't know why Big Papa with the diffuser is the first one to breach in through that window, but they're going in pretty hard and heavy, and it looks like First Blood will go down in favor of Big Papa with the AK-12.
I mean, that's just early control in Solar, and now all these cutoffs are just allowing for this plant to go down. Big Papa is just going to be completely safe now that everyone from UWO is covering for him.
It is down, almost secured back the other way, but 40 seconds on the clock working in favor. Just one player remaining, and Canadian No Name will have no ticket left to punch through for the remainder of this round. It's Big Papa who really drilled the point home from the very get-go. First one in the gates through Solar, tries to swing out, gets a kill. A very interesting trade from the closet side, and that just creates this very strong level of momentum. Should have been taken down from the player rushing through that closet side. Truly not enough coverage in the plant or the planter in the first place if the rush from closet was going to come through. But a solid first round, and now a new reevaluation of how they attempt to defend this will have to come forward from the defensive of Windsor. They're going to go down to the basement instead, which is the much wiser decision. This objective was heavily slept on when Chalet initially stepped into the pool, and since then everyone started to realize, hey, this objective's pretty darn good. We should probably start playing this one more often. Maybe it's in fact Master Bedroom and Office that's considered a lot weaker.
I mean, and we saw why Master Bedroom and Office is probably one of the weakest sites. There were so many cutoffs that just denied you win from actually getting in and denying that plant, because as soon as that closet player was dead, there's nobody left to contest that. So Big Papa is just able to get that plant down so safely, because there's a guy on Big Window, guy on Bathroom Window. Those are all the cutoff points that they need to watch to make sure that nobody else can rush on in, deny that plant. So you win going to a completely different bomb site. A little less of an opportunity outside of that snowmobile wall is going to allow for some of those cutoff opportunities, but they still need to be careful because of how successfully Western Mustang were just able to take that early control and then just hold it for the rest of that round.
The employment of a Cali here is something that me and Mason last week were very negative about, and I'm not going to immediately dog on the operator choice right off the get-go here in the second round, but Kali has a time and a place, and it doesn't feel like basement really fits that if you're just working in from the snowmobile garage side, where glass would be infinitely better. But if you're sitting over here, my goodness, can the Cali do quick work? You have that breach. They've left that wall soft, put an Osa shield up in front of Renoki, and you've got a turreted tank in the back line ready to drill cannon fire at the fodder at the opposing side of the lineup. The issue is you also clubbed half the opposing side of UN and weren't able to finish a kill because you don't have just enough damage on top of that sniper to finish the job against a full armor defender, and UN are aware of that. They'll continue to reswing that. They've got the dock. That's what Helkerbex is bringing it for. And you've got to do a little bit smarter. You need somebody else to assist you, or you need to rotate.
Yeah, that rotate, it is going to be coming out for UWO. So at this point, I would imagine they're going to try to open up the snowmobile wall, try to facilitate another cutoff, but it seems they're actually just going to go for that trench doorway instead. They're fully focused on getting this boiler wall open and then just pushing on in through there. So one part of that job is already done. They have these cutoffs in, but they just cannot seem to push their way deeper into the bomb site. No Name still upstairs, applying some pressure and getting the first kill onto Beam. So that's already his pressure established, because now he can pressure down onto West Main stairs, and that's going to deny a large part of their control.
No one's watching that staircase. You know a teammate just died there. You need to be more vigilant of that angle. But instead, too just stubborn in their ways, I guess would be the way Sirius, as they're trying to work in so darn hard through that boiler wall, with too much pressure in from door. And even if you had managed to find the success, there was Canadian No Name not too far behind and sitting at the bottom of that staircase, waiting to tear down the competition, and somehow, someway still fails to do so, as Hishe gets the frag needed to keep their chances here for the Western Mustangs alive and well, as Renoki is in the objective, in default, and in control of the diffuser, waiting to get this plant down with covering fire from Hishe. Will need to maybe step off of this one. If that in fact was a toxic babe, it's not too big of a concern. They have to run back the other way as a nitro cell rips, but it can't finish everything. They get one kill before it detonates, and it leaves just Hishe in the 1v1 now, able to isolate Helkerbex. Minsk's inside of Garage, being rushed by... They need to be smarter, and it can't do it in time. Minsk plays it perfectly, hiding behind the corner elbow here, and the Two-Brow comes up with the final blood to clutch things up 1-1 now.
I mean, just UWO stalled from the very beginning of that round. I mean, they got early big garage control and then held that cutoff on the rotate connector area, but then they just didn't really do much else after that. They got boiler wall open, but then they just kind of sat there for half the round, didn't do anything. And at that point, No Name is still applying pressure from the stairs, just living rent-free essentially, and then finally gets a kill onto the Nomad, that flank operator that's supposed to be watching for that exact kind of play. Just so many things where it's just like, okay, they're just not doing anything to exert more pressure. One big thing that I'm surprised they didn't go for that entire time was the main wall over on Snowmobile. That would have cut off a lot of those rotates, allowed them to get that plant down a lot safer, because of the fact that players can't rotate with a C4. Players can't do a lot of these things to just run that player down and then get that planter while he's just on the case. So at that point, I just don't know what UWO were doing to try to make their lives a lot easier trying to get into that bomb site, because they just ran straight into the setup for UWin and didn't really make them have to sweat too much for it.
When you place that Cali inside Garage and you put the Oster Shield in front of them, they made the right choice in rotating and pivoting off, but the Cali didn't necessarily need to. The rest of the team should have. There should have been more pressure up on the opposing side off towards Snowmobile Garage. There should have been a top-down approach in the remainder of Chalet, second to first, and clearing down through basement to make sure there was never a chance to go a player down from Canadian No Name finding the first frag on that extension over towards West Main entrance. There just wasn't a lot of correct impact past the initial placement of that turret that you're using Cali as inside of Big Garage. Needs a little bit more, just didn't have it. It's going to be a major problem for the Mustangs if they don't try to fix that strategy when that objective come back around. But speaking of objectives coming back around, right back up to the second floor with the Master Benjamin office hold, and UWin are starting off on the very big right foot. An impact nade, we choose you, Renoki. Shield down, big window control lost, and then a good frag on a tracker as well. Puts them at a two-man advantage until Sonic unfortunately does finally bite the bullet.
Already taken down the two biggest key components of what lost them that previous round, just taking off those cutoff angles, making sure that now UWO have to push in directly from Solar or force them to rotate out somewhere else and try to apply pressure to the other parts of the bomb site. Now UWin can sit back a lot more comfortably. Yes, they just lost a man, so it's only one man advantage, but look at how well they're positioned. They not just really feeling a lot of pressure at this point, because honestly, outside of the buck down below trying to open up these angles, they don't really have to do much. They can just sit back and just wait for them to get into position, try to force that execute, but they're just going to be trying to hold these cutoffs, hold these crossfires, and wait for them to walk right into their gunfire sites.
Pixie Dark Phantom EK sitting here still in Solarium, holding elbow top. A staircase will drop down, knows his player off towards Kitchen, a little slow on the fire, and Hishe survives the initial onslaught coming out here from the Scorpion Evo. Need to be a little bit smarter past that as the flashes are starting to be wrung out in that direction. Does not start Dark Phantom from able to eventually take down Hishe, who was still below down in kitchen. And the Western Mustangs are in a very uncomfortable spot now. Only 2 players remaining, and both of them are attempting to entry in from the exact same angle. And you're not checking every opening that's been created, not just by them, but by you as well with a hole that large. Both players died of the same exact rotate, the same exact breach created. And now you've got another round lost, giving you win the round advantage and letting them step away now from that second floor to arguably an even better objective once again than that second floor. No matter what it is, kitchen, dining, or bar gaming, it's going to be better in the long run than that last site.
I mean, the surprising thing for me is how UWO rather, are just not really adapting to the situation overall. They've been bringing out the same strategies, and or if they just commit to a singular one, they just don't rotate away from it. They're full committed to the exact same take that they planned in the beginning of the round, and then don't walk away from it, even though it is the clear wrong idea. We saw round number 1 where they just held those big windows and just cut off the entire bomb site. That worked so well for them. The second repeat did the exact same thing. Not a single operator, I think, was changed, and not a single setup was changed. Except it went even worse because now UN know that that exact kind of play is coming, and they deal with it accordingly. Bring the impacts, get aggressive onto that highway player, and then just UWO, what do? They just send one player down below all by himself to try to deal with all that pressure while 2 players sit on solar. That just, to me, Scott, does not scream a big sign of success, and nor a real chance to actually win that round out, because you're doing the exact same thing you went with that clearly did not work.
All of that was really so reliant on big window control, like I mentioned, holding down that T-Hall. In the impact, in the first place, they were prepped and ready and waiting for Windsor this time around. They weren't sitting too far back. That was always an available option for them. And because you didn't play for that denial in any sort of capacity, they were waiting for it. The impact comes down and it full removes not just the shield you're placing, but the individual there as well on that rappel. It's something that has to very quickly get fixed when that objective comes back around, because that's a round that you don't want to give back up and garner under control for that Windsor side. But you have more fish you need to worry about frying, and round 4 is the best way to start things off for them as Hishe opens things up, takes down Sonic, who was the first to fall for UN the round prior, but this was after they had found 2 kills. A much better start for the Western Mustangs.
Overall, No Name has been feeling a lot of pressure from the very beginning of the round. It's getting even worse as there's a player on big window once again, establishing that cutoff and that T-hole. Like you said, it's very important to cutting off these last 2 roamers, but he lets one slip by. He gets all the way over into safety in the closet, so now he can help his teammate out a little bit by just letting him swing out. Apparently, he's just going crazy like that.
The Inox scanner to boot in on top, and you're praying the Western Mustangs if you can get a refrag back, but apparently they can't check the floorboards. Frostmat puts Tracker in an uncomfortable spot, and Canadian No Name will finish the job. Has to get refragged, and thankfully does for the Western Mustangs. Evening the odds once again at a 3v3. Despite the fact the objective is down on that first floor, it has taken them 2 minutes to clear most, but not all of the pressure that was up on that second floor for the Windsor side. And they barely come out even forward as they'll now relocate and start to put their influence back down to the first, as one of the players on the defending side of Windsor is not even on the first floor now. Serious. They're in the basement, hiding down below, watching trench door, watching bottom of West Main staircase. They're trying to ensure they can have a late transition into the site to capsize the structure that the Western Mustangs are trying to build when they start to put that diffuser down in a post-plant scenario. But if you step up now in the final 30 seconds, you've got to wonder, what has Minsk been doing this entire time? And it's not enough, because UWO can now start to sprint in, and they'll have full control of dining, where Minsk has now even stepped away from there. What can you do to stop it? You're gonna have to play from a long range angle, and you have to pray that the Vector and the Scorpion, which are kind of poor at that range, can do it, and you can't do it if they drop through hatch and kitchen and get you instead.
Not a damn thing they can do about that situation whatsoever. UWO taking control of that final 30 seconds and just making sure they get all the information under their belt and collapse upon these last 2 players of UN. And overall, just a very clean round. Yes, it did get a little sloppy in the early round, but they established control of that top floor by making sure that big window, a big cutoff point, was under their control from the very beginning. Those players cannot fall back very safely all they have to do is just put pressure onto them and then finally push them back into their gun sights and then get collapse onto those kills. Then at that point, UN needed to get more aggressive, but they were playing so separately from each other, not really establishing pressure onto those last three players of UWO. Players down in the basement, I'm not sure what that's going to do to really help you get that win under your belt, because that's not really doing anything to pressure those players who have to drop down the hatch, move down those stairs. Your player of Minsk is still in the middle of dining, fighting for his life, just trying to find some hard cover. But overall, that's just not a great way to kind of handle that situation, because they just looked like they were out of sync with each other.
Yeah, it was a little off kilter, and for a defensive position as important as that objective tends to be, because you're essentially still playing it like a Master Benjamin office hold, with the availability to drop down below to that first floor for a secondary level of defense, you have to be aware that they can go direct to sites, and you have to be aware that they're more likely not going to still try to reach in from that second floor. And if you're on the side of the Western Mustangs, you look at that round as a breakdown and say, hey, we didn't come in from Solarian this time, and we were able to take control of that second floor very handily. Maybe when we see that objective again up in second in Master Benjamin office, we do the exact same thing. Mezzanine control, take control of library, swing in through Ivy, get control of office side. We need somebody on Master balcony. These are steps that the Western Mustangs used to take over that top-down control. The only issue lacking, they only had 20 seconds of true impact because they weren't droning very effectively on that top floor, realizing that UN had left 40 seconds prior to that, and they lost a lot of time and weren't able to leave a player up there for a possible post plan, and they had to take a dangerous drop through hatch. But they get it done, they get the round win, they succeed, and then they start off this round fairly poorly with 60 seconds in, Big Papa going down.
That's the roam clear too, because I'm noticing that Hell is still sticking around in the middle of Bar Games area, so he's going to be a big nuisance, as well as No Name on the complete opposite side of the map. So Western Mustangs still have a lot to do to make sure that they have all this control under their belt, because they're trying to establish a lot of control upstairs in Fireplace, but they're not dealing with any of these roamers. They're just kind of letting them sit idly by and waiting for them to kind of make a big play later in the round. They do find a pick on Dark Phantom, so that is at least something to equalize things out. But Hell spots out a player on the stairs and takes off his head.
Back in return, back into the action, and Western Mustangs clap back with their own kill onto Helkerbecks. The roam game you highlighted still coming in effectively, but UN now willing to transition back down to the site, a full strong and static hold, and unfortunately Canadian No Name was incapable of doing so. Heshe with another effective strike in this round puts them at a player advantage for the Western Mustangs. And Windsor will have to figure out how to hold this defensively with just two. Mitsk's inside Blue Hall, aware that the breach inside Snowmobile is there. Player moves in behind garbage cans, but you can't find this kill. It's a free and easy plant. You have a nitro cell, but do you think it's safe enough to extend out of this reach? Can you get it?
What?
Boom goes the dynamite. Minsk with the nitro cell toss to Renoki, and somehow, some way, the toss was long enough in Windsor. Have a chance here in this round as Diffuser is still located behind garbage and no one on the side of UWO is close enough to grab it. They'll have to go for the frag, and they succeed in doing so.
I was still very worried about the roam clear, but they got it done at the very end of things, just collapsing on those last few roamers and then executing perfectly onto the bomb site, getting that main wall open, allowing for that trash plant to try to go down. Unfortunately, just the C4 got tossed out far enough that it did go down, so those last two players have an idea of where he is. He only has to be in Blue Hall area because your player is sitting in connector. You're watching the wine area, so only place left is now going to have to be walking down the main stairs, collapsing onto them, doubling up, getting that crossfire, and making sure that if one player dies and it's immediately traded upon, you still win the round. Overall, UWO have been adapting ever so slightly to these last few rounds. We're starting to look a little bit stagnant in their overall strategy, but the last two rounds have really brought it to you win and made sure that their strategy is secure and getting them these wins.
The Western Mustangs, you've been highlighting a series talking about, worried about their roam clear and worried about how effective they are in times for that roam clear. I'm less concerned about their roam clear in all honesty and more concerned about the roam game from Windsor instead, right? UN have now had so many rounds fall out because they play a heavy roam game and then those roamers don't know how or when to safely extend back towards the site. Your end-all be-all plan is not to keep them out of the objective forever. Your end-all be-all plan is to keep them out of the objective for as long as humanly possible. There should be no intent and purpose to keep them out forever. It should be no intent and purpose to go for every single kill under the sun and swing every angle imaginable. The attacking side has the single best piece of utility, and every attacker has two of in the back pocket. The drone, the information, the ability to check and clear those angles prior to you even being able to see them. You need to be aware of that and play a whole lot smarter on these extensions and on these roam games. And I'm not really seeing that just yet from UN. And considering this is the last round series of their defensive side on a very attacker-sided map, and they've gotten two, but are struggling in the most basic principle of Chalet's defense with those roam games, this doesn't bode well for them, and it gets even worse when one of your best players of Canadian No Name goes down for the first strike.
Cutoff was established, and they're trying to fight their way back, but Dark Phantom still sticking around top library stairs. This is a very risky play because he can easily be counted upon to just kind of get caught off by these last few players of UWO. But they don't even seem to be trying to hunt him down. They're still trying to hold down the areas and secure library control in the first place. It doesn't seem like they even know that there's not really anybody top mezzanine anymore. Dark Phantom's still applying pressure in Case's hallway, but look at it. He's getting pinched upon by the back of Hishe, so he needs to be very aware of this, but he's moving away at the right time.
Timing is perfect, but not good enough for Hishe. Sexy Dark Phantom still hiding within box, able to secure themselves a good pickup kill. McLovin knew exactly where they were, still a little slow on the fire, but still good enough to conclude for the kill. And it puts it at a 2 versus 3, still a man disadvantage, and Renoki needs to get this exothermic charge down on this office wall. Reach open, have access for mezzanine, and the team needs to have cams up for flank watch. As Beamer McLovin will go ahead and do so here. I thought for sure he fired that at Ivy Wall there, and it for some reason looked like it was at the bottom of the staircase instead. Not sure what was going on with that. But Renoki will have to peek and swing this one first. Despite holding the diffuser, you'd anticipate this would maybe be Beamer going for this instead. They have pocket breaches. Maybe they're wanting to utilize that. I'm not too sure. I don't know why they're going for it this way. They'll finally breach open the wall. This gives them access to shorts. This gives them access to the inside of office. And when nobody's on the first floor for Windsor, this means that it's nearly impossible to deny this office plant behind this guaranteed unbreakable, unfireable brick wall. And they're still not even going for it directly behind brick wall. This will give an angle for the player of Helkerbecks.
Oh.
What are you doing, Western Mustangs? It's an unbreakable object. Hide behind it. Get the plant down. You're standing out in the open where a player from out towards T Hall, from behind piano even, could take you down. You need to understand your positions. It's now a 3-3 half on an attacker side that should be advantaged for the map for Chalet.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is the fact that there was a Goyo canister right by the wall that would have denied that hardcover plant. That's the only thing I can think of, though.
40 seconds to break it beforehand.
40 seconds, though, so they had plenty of time to take care of it before, but just lack of time, and then just maybe getting a little bit flustered just made him sit in the middle of the open, denied from that angle in the middle of T hallway. So now just his cover in the middle of K9 door can't really do anything about it. He's just having to hold that bedroom angle because, I mean, logically, that's the one thing you cover. You can still watch piano a little bit, right? If they rush up, if you're on the hardcover plant. He wasn't, though, so he's exposed to the open. His cover can't do a damn thing about it. That was just a little bit of poor positioning that really cost them the round that maybe could have gone their way if they had played that right.
10 seconds remaining.
Oh, I think the biggest thing here for a lot of those rounds, honestly, for the Western Mustang series, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, time. They were really slow in the first 2 rounds to get things under the books. Obviously, round 1, it worked out for them, but in round 2, they're coming into the final 20 seconds and still only have 2 players inside Solar as the last 2 remaining. They're running into time constraints, and that last round was plagued by it. They have a very slow roam clear, which is fine. A better job for UN to have those roamers be a little bit more effective in buying time, which is the end-all be-all point, like I alluded to. But it should have still been a lot easier with 40 seconds-ish available on the clock by the time you would place that exothermic charge and should have breached in the first place. It's a price that unfortunately makes it a little bit harder, especially if you know that Beamer can clear out whatever is denying that hard breach there. You gotta be a little bit more effective with it. And it's a round that's going to even things up and look a little bit more dire as you transition to the defense, and you're already lacking that Frost to Big Papa, and might as hell just knock down Tracker as well while you're at it.
I mean, talk about just not playing things as optimally as you can. They've already lost 2 bodies in the first minute of that round, and they're looking like they could possibly lose another. There's a big player on the cutoff, but it doesn't even matter. Dark Phantom's just going to swing Renoki, who's trying to play aggressive on the office doorway, gives away another life, and now you are in dominant control of this round so far. Halfway through, they don't have to do much. They can honestly slow this round way down and make UWO be super antsy and just have to get super aggressive in order to try to even possibly win this round out.
Long fire being held here from Beamer McLovin. You know that the Thorn can hold angles like this. Big sight, big skills, but a pretty hefty recoil if you're not too careful at that distance. But in a headshot game where anything can get the job done, you need to be a little bit smarter than you would like to think. It's Hishe up for the first blood finally for the Western Mustangs, and Beamer around the corner deals with the player planting behind Brick. And it's a 2v2 all of a sudden. The shield control here not being denied whatsoever. The Western Mustangs making great use of the total lack of utility clearance from the side of UWin. Where's the Rotero drone? Where's the extra utility with a nade around that corner? Where's the Sophia lifeline? I know where it is. Dead, removed, no impact with the impact lifeline. You've got to use proper utility to clear out one of the most effective footholds for a defending team and one of the harder objectives, T Hall. And if you don't have the utility, you got big window, man. Go swing a player off that direction. They may still scrape this round by. A plant is going down and it will be confirmed, but it's still way too close for comfort when this started as a 5v2 and is now ending as a 2v1. Drone will be cleared. Beamer McLovin will swing through the corner. Knows maybe there's a player holding towards Ego window by library hallway. Will find that impact. And it's a 1v1 all of a sudden in a disastrous spot still available for Canadian No Name to screw things up here. But they've got control from below. The wisest decision we've seen here in this round for their attacking side, as the Nomad air jab will knock them back further and the sightline will be gained. Canadian!
No!
You cannot be serious! No Name for sure, where are you in this round from below? Somehow, someway, Western Mustangs pull off an impossible 5v2 comeback to secure a round win here.
Has anybody actually won a round if you plant and then play it from below? I swear I've never seen a successful round win.
We had 2 last week.
Two last week. 2 out of like maybe 50 that I've seen in my total lifetime that I can remember off the top of my head. I mean, it's ridiculous. And just a big throw coming in from UWin in a round that they should have won, except for the fact that they went in one at a time, gave them these solo gunfights, and allowed them to really come back into that round. And just, it's ridiculous, and I just don't understand what the plan was for UWin, because a guy's coming up solar for the backstab. Okay, fair enough. But he's kind of 30 seconds behind the rest of his team, who are falling like flies due to the fact that they're just playing these long angles and losing to the fact that UWO are positioning themselves perfectly in those scenarios. They know their power positions that they have under their control still and playing around that fact. We're just seeing a lack of coordination come in for Windsor, and I'm just like kind of stunned. My brain is malfunctioning almost. I can't think of words to say to describe how disappointed I am.
There's so much available in the books for Windsor to deal with that. I mean, you have attacker repicking. Also, great spawn peak right there, Big Papa. Love seeing that. Chalet is king of spawn peaks. You have so many win conditions that can help you out, and one of those at your disposal is attacker redeploy, right? You can pick up a new operator in the prep phase to counteract what's being brought out from the Western Mustangs. I don't know if they just didn't head towards the objective whatsoever. They didn't try to scout things out entirely. I'm not too sure. There was a vision blocker, the little mute jammer looking thing that blocks vision for drones. Yeah, sure. Maybe that stopped you from seeing the multitude of shields placed inside of T that I guess didn't lead you to think you needed to bring something to destroy that, but you headed into the last round with only one single piece of range destructive utility at your disposal, and it was a Sophia lifeline impact. And you're asking this operator who's essentially there as your entry to extend a dangerous elbow and clear out not just 1, not just 2, but nearly 3 huge pieces and important pieces of utility there, when you still didn't even have the utility to burn away any ADSs or, well, my magnets, should they have been there, they weren't there that last round. You had none of it there to burn that utility. And it led to a just fizzling out of your attack because you had nothing to clear away the strongest defending position for that office plant in default. And you've got to just go next. That's what it is. That's what it is here. GG, go next and pray for the whole other attempt. They move to a new objective, and Western Mustangs come out here with a man advantage, something they couldn't gain to the last few moments, and are continuing to uphold here. Big Papa's got all three for themselves.
I mean, and the fact that they just cannot get any control off the fact that No Name was the first one dead. They can't open up a single wall. They got all this control because nobody from UWO is roaming this far, but they can't do a thing about it. Sonic's just having to find some scraps to get any kills at this point in the time. Unless we see another massive throw coming out from another team, this should be a done deal for you win because Sonic can't realistically do anything. He has to walk into these crossfires and just the power positions set up in sight. Big P is just going to try to finish this off, and he's going to be able to do that, but it was a done deal almost right off the rip. I mean, we just kind of didn't really cover that all that much, but it was a huge crucial part of that play because they couldn't open up the hatch, they couldn't open that crossfire wall. There was just nothing that you could do in that round other than just, all right, just let Big P kill you all. All right, I guess that's fun.
Big Papa gets 3 kills, and the third one, 50-50. It could have gone either way. The first play, like you mentioned, being so darn effective against such an important operator for the team, their win condition was nearly lost entirely right there. And there's other pieces of utility that can have hard breach. If you got pocket hard breaches, you can still open up something. But when you're really needing that exothermic charge, you're really needing that big breach, you can kind of say, okay, we still have chances elsewhere. But Big Papa just goes, okay, you thought 1 was bad? Let's make it 2. And if you think 2 is trouble, double it and give it to the next person. Let's end that round with 4 total kills to myself and have Renoki steal the limelight for the final ace. They didn't even bring the pocket hard breaches as well, though, in the last round, which is also ridiculous when you know you only have 1 single person for hard breach and you're playing operators that can yield pocket hard breaches or operators that you can change to have pocket hard breaches. Why are we not seeing that elevation or that second level of safety, right? The harness on top of the cliff dive that you're currently trying to go through right now with no harness. You gotta have secondary steps, and there it is. Helkerbex finally has pocket hard breaches, and they have an ace as well for ranged hard breaches to just put the icing on the cake for their main.
I mean, arguably, it's not the best site for it overall, and Minsk, oh no, Renoki, that's just not okay, man. You can't do that to them at this point. That's going to be the buck off the board, and that's, I mean, we were talking to meta ahead now. That would be a way to get rid of these zombie barriers. Not quite in that Deadly Omen patch just yet, so I mean, overall, that's a lot of their top floor potential where they can clear out bar area and make sure that's a little bit safer if you're trying to hop in the game's window. So now, UWO just soaring ahead at this point. They're winning a lot of these opening engagements and throwing UWU in for a loop. So honestly, at this point, they just need to find something to try to get back into these rounds.
It's so difficult. They both start with U and then go to a W, and then it's completely different past that, but my goodness, you want to say you win when it's UWO. You want to say UWO when it's you win.
Yeah, I know.
And then I don't ever want to say Western Mustangs. I just want to say Mustangs. But like, it's just, it's always something. We'll get it by the 3rd map. How about that? Well, I promise if a 3rd map comes forward, we'll have it nailed down totally. Half this round has elapsed. And though we have not seen too much come out here from UN, the 2 players that have been felled have seen enough, and they will bow out of this round for the remainder of it, still putting them now at a disadvantage. And Sexy Dark Phantom, well, you're joining into the afterlife. Nitro Cell tossed, ripped, and dipped, and boom goes the dynamite. Canadian No Name does get a good kill onto Beamer McLovin, but we had mentioned it at the start with the fact that we saw a zombie get through that ban phase. They've already done most of the dirty work with these Kiba barricades. They've already done enough of that area denial and time buying against this Windsor side, and they just have to bide out the rest of this. And with 60 seconds only remaining, and I'll be honest, not a lot of top-down availability here for the Windsor side. It seems like a really clear-cut scenario for the Western Mustangs to close and secure this, as it's just hatches from above that aren't even being full cleared with the last Selma that they had on charge.
They can't even fully open it, so they're still going to have to walk straight into these doorways. I mean, No Name has to deal with the player at bottom blue stairs, and Sonic's still up above trying to clear these angles. They need to group up and try to find something, find these ISO picks, because there's still a possibility of that UWO aren't next to each other. They need to find a kill now, otherwise it'll be too late for it.
Wow.
There's one.
Huge pickup for Sonic up above. But 18 seconds will tick down in tracker. Imzy will have to keep his eyes out. Ishe off still over towards the opposing side towards Mud, but the breach will not be entered in. Instead, big window control there. Somehow the turn is there for Skimzy. It's fine. Canadian No Name just had no clue what was going on. Sonic tries to rush in, does not have diffuser for some reason. It was held on the opposing side. A non-default plant inside bar. And a huge miscommunication, huge miscoordination again for the attacking side of Windsor puts us now at match point on their map pick against them. Looking down the wrong end of the barrel, it's the Western Mustangs doubling the stat line of Windsor and left them completely dry in the second half. They've not found any sort of success on an attacker-sided map on the attack.
And just so far, they've been floundering on almost every single step. I mean, they've lost every single round up until this point, and they just cannot seem to have a clear idea of what they want to go for. They're getting entry picked almost every single round. They're just have no idea how to really adapt to the situation after they...
I too am at a loss for words. Don't worry. It's not just you, buddy. Me as well. And I'm sure the viewers there as well. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a pretty darn good map for Windsor. I thought they were going to take it after the really good first half. They played defensively. They're keeping the Western Mustangs even. They're keeping them at bay. They're holding them off. And then I saw the first round of the second half, and I was like, Windsor definitely has this. Round 7, they're going to win this. There's no way things turn awry. Then that's where it happened again. Another slap in the face and another complete change up for my mind about how it has to go the other way. The balcony control in this round, they go for the spawn peek again. Big Papa, the best way to do it ever. And I'll tell you in right now, the old heydays of being able to put bullet holes and barricades and peek through those. Kaid, you'd bring the primary SMG, you'd fire one bullet hole through a barricade, and then you'd whip out the ACOG revolver. And you'd peek up on top of rocks. And you would go for that spawn peek and you'd nail it every single time. At least that's what I did. But you didn't get nothing this round. Big Papa goes down first. And there goes Sexy Dark Phantom to join in after the fact. Helkerbex has to refrag it and does so successfully by removing Keyshay from the equation. And when a 5v5 quickly turns into a 4v3, defense needs to restructure very quickly as your two roamers, your two players that extended out, now are nowhere to be seen, and the floorboards from below are finding quite a lot of success with this IQ utility. Helkerbex, who had also found a kill in this round, just continuing to tear down all of that hard breach denial from that mezzanine wall. And Sonic continuing to tear down the HP of Renoki, putting us in a 4v2 with a minute and a half now remaining in this round. And Western Mustangs need to figure out where to go from here. Drone war comes through. That's a barricade inside bathroom. Beamer McLovin, did you prep this for a run out? They're really holding darn close to it with the anticipation that maybe that is the case. But will Minsk be aware there's the breach? It is in fact broken in a single tap. Beamer will fall back because that solar window is being broken upon as well. And you'd have to assume a drone is working its way up through that elbow staircase to find so much more information than the defense has available to them. And it comes forward to one big fell swoop. Minsk with the final blood there. And just our 6 trackers, Skimzy all by themselves. Completely pincered in, trapped between a rock and 3 different hard places. But the UMP is good for 1. And the top of staircase has to be cleared out quickly, and Helkerbex just will not go down without a fight. That's a round 1 for the defense here. Sorry, for the attack here, finally coming out from Ewan, and we see the Western Mustangs still being held at bay at match point.
I come back. I lost my internet for like that entire round, and I come back, and Ewan finally went around.
Yeah, I think you're the bad luck charm series.
I think I'll just go again. I'll just like
I'd appreciate if you
leave.
Didn't, unless I'm also getting your money.
Yes, I mean, it's fine. Whatever, you can have it. I don't really care.
Let's go. I'm getting his coupons to Dollar General. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Can't wait for like 25 cents off of laundry detergent this week.
Or a candy bar. I don't know. You pick your poison, I guess.
Why'd you pick a food? I named laundry detergent. You back in the Tide Pod generation right now? All right.
No, I was thinking a candy bar. What are you thinking of? I'm not thinking of
I mean,
that.
you just immediately jumped to food when I mentioned laundry detergent. So
Man,
it's just,
I'm hungry. It's been a long day.
it's true. I just had a nice beef skirt steak sandwich. It was delicious.
That does sound really good.
High in protein.
5 seconds to go.
I could kill for one of those right now.
I would hope you wouldn't have to stoop so low.
I would hope so too. I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah, I don't know very many people that want to be fair. Not too far from the beat. I've been to prison.
Oh.
Visited. It was a part of our field trip in college for criminal justice.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, it would have been a very weird field trip if it was just elementary school.
Yeah, it was actually my middle school, like 5th grade field trip. It's a high danger facility, like state penitentiary.
Here, kids, here's prisoner number 4 who...
Beyond scared straight, just normal middle school edition.
I guess we should probably start actually talking about the round. They've already got the wall open, and this is already less than a minute in, so at this point, you win. Already starting to get some bit of control at this point, so now, all of a sudden, UWO, lack of real roaming presence I'm noticing, so there's only actually one player up above. That's really it at this point. Is that really it?
It's a fuse. That gives you something. And we're seeing the exact same sort of attack, except for the slightest of variations from UN. Very one-dimensional, like you said, a single person on the first floor, everyone else down working laterally in from basement. It's dangerous. It's too dangerous. At least it's not just from the north. Okay, you're blind. It's not just from the north. What's the line Jinxie says? So we have no ears? Right? Is that the phrase that he goes with? So we have no ears? Apparently can't hear the shotgun wielding, Mossberg wielding Renoki around that corner. And apparently we can't hear the fire fight back from Helkerbeck's North Sexy Dark Phantom as they'll go out. Not even a scream to be heard. And it's just Minx now forced to go for the 1v4. Good for one of those. But 3 more may just elude them as they have 60 seconds to work, but that's a lot of time, Sirius. But there's a whole lot of ammo still left for UWO and not a lot of HP remaining, about 49 on top.
I mean, they tried to go super fast, but they didn't take into account that UWO are trying to get super aggressive right back onto them. They only left one roamer upstairs, but all the aggressive presence was on the bomb site itself. Vince is going to get at least one more, but he's on such little HP. Doesn't really have a whole lot to work with. This is probably at least a very done deal, unless he gets 2 nice headshots in these last 30 seconds. I'm not really seeing that possibility come out. He's going to have to try to find his way in. Not really exactly sure where that bomb is dropped.
How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet?
Main stairs? No way.
Yeah, okay, maybe not, but I mean, there isn't like, it's an EDD. Something's got to happen, right? It's got to go off at some point. He's gonna get one kill. Oh, he's gonna get one kill and try to walk in a blue hall. That's where it's gonna go. Great map. Beamer McLevin with the final frag and a concluding victory here for the Western Mustangs at the end of map 1, at the end of their blowout second half victory, only letting 1 round go against them. But they also struggled so darn heavily on attack, and let's look where they are now in this first half, where momentum is very important and you want to try to get yourself solidified early in a series or in a map in general on the attack. The side we argued was weaker from them, and maybe it doesn't bode well for a map like Border where, yeah, the defense is really good at holding static positions, which is where UWO really thrived, but you also can have really effective roam game, which UN were pretty darn good at when they were able to employ it effectively.
Yeah, one other thing for Western Mustang is that they weren't really heavily emphasizing the roam on Chalet. Granted, it is a bigger map and you can still kind of hold onto the site directly, or at least near enough that you could still get away with at least one roamer. But a Border, it feels like a map you have to get so much more aggressive on, and you can't just really sit idly by, wait for the attackers to... Overall, just this map is so tiny, and just one single bit of map control lost is almost a surefire win for the attackers unless something drastically goes wrong. So overall, I mean, I think fan phase kind of just going about as I would expect for this phase. Overall, Fenrir off the board. Didn't really get to see him last map, but you talked about it. He's a crucial operator that is very annoying to have to deal with when you have to go into those choke points. So overall, just kind of going as I expected.
Yeah, no surprises here. Serious, right? It's not that shocking. It's not too crazy. The Osa was heavily used. The Dokkaebi is way too darn good. Everyone's been saying there needs to be a change. You're trying to bring about the change. You are bringing about the change. But it's also just too easy to ban at this point in time. And then, of course, the Finner from before and the Soul List to round things out. I'm expecting Border to be the same old Border that we're used to. I'm also expecting there to be some pretty darn fun strategies to come out here on the attack, knowing where your weaknesses were in the first place on your first map of Chalet. A Monty in the first round could be a very entertaining idea for me, and that very well may be what we're seeing the Western Mustangs go for here, to get that quick point of entry, to have that safe level of control, to get in through that door to the A site and get that plant down safely. You're going to need the right utility to deny that, and so much that's going to come off of almost entirely just the two-piece utility of your top two operators there on the left side of your screen. The Toxic Babes from your smoke and the Goyo canisters coming out from your Vulcan. You need to make sure those are primed and placed and waiting for any of the possible outlets of approach coming out here from the Western Mustangs, but more specifically that A site needs to be on lockdown, because you're placing shields up for the execute onto double wall through B, through Armory. You don't need to put as much utility pressure there when so much of it's more than likely not going to come through A, where Monties are so darn popular.
I mean, and we saw in a previous series before this one, we saw this exact kind of play with a few different operators kind of thrown in there. This kind of Archive's immediate hit with a Monty was pulled off to perfection by one of these teams. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, like you said, University of Windsor has to be very careful about how they place themselves, because we saw how disastrous it was for the defense the last time this kind of play was pulled off. So if they aren't aware of this, don't have the utility in the right places, especially for those smoke canisters, this could be a disastrous first round that would go very well for Western Mustangs, continuing their momentum.
First round officially gets started and underway, and the Rotero drones are coming out in full force here for Reamer McLovin. Already placed in. The initial doorway will clear out a Vulcan canister. We'll try to clear out a little bit more of that barbed wire that's there as well. Did that clear hatch as in the process, or was that already detonated? It's a little bit hard to say.
I think it was already detonated at this point. I'm pretty sure that was detonated pre-round.
It should be. It should be broken free, but you never truly know half the time. Defensively, it's a long angle being held using the Doc MP to try to keep them at bay from this execute. Sonic's also got a tertiary angle from long. A plant was being tested coming out from the side of the Western Mustangs, but it's not the plant that's getting them success here. It's the kills. 2 in favor for their side. Both of them coming out from Big Papa, who else? Onto Helkerbex, the Doc holding the long fire, and Canadian No Name, the Toxic Bames activity they were really hoping to use in the final few moments once those Goyo canisters had detonated, and that they have. And the plant will officially start to go down. This one, I have to believe, will stick as Skimsy goes in big with a shot from above through the floorboard holes being used against them, and Big Papa closes out the round to secure their third kill within it, and the first round win for the Western Mustangs, who are doing so darn good here already on Border, one of the most effective first rounds we've seen.
And see, I thought Windsor had a great idea of how to counter that Monty play, have someone down below use those impacts and get the angle onto him, but kind of like you were highlighting in that round, people were just falling left and right by a big play coming in from Big Papa, just clearing out the cutoffs and just making sure that nobody can really actually effectively do anything against the Monty, who's just standing in the doorway. Pressure is just falling on the bomb site. You can't really do anything to deny it. The smoke babes and C4s and Goyos were popped almost immediately, and there's nothing that you can really do to deny it at that point other than just get aggressive, get the people surrounding the Monty, and then you finally get the kill onto him. That didn't happen, and they lose that round almost entirely just within the first 30 seconds just because of how effective those crossfires and cutoffs were by UWO.
Which outlet did Big Papa take initially to pick up those first 2 frags? Did you know, Sirius?
I wasn't paying full attention. I can't tell if he was on Vent or if he was on Office. I'm pretty sure
what I was
Office.
confused about. I didn't know if he had taken Office window and swung
I think it was
from
Office,
there.
if I remember
because
where he was last time.
He took down Helkerbex, who was inside Fountain, right? So my imagination is that he had to have an angle from there, and I can't envision that it was the long angle from Vent, right? I can't envision that it was that far to try to get that shot opportunity, but so much of that round's impact comes off of just Big Papa, and it's not just saying, hey, he got 3 kills, he was definitely the most impactful player. They were impactful frags. They closed out that space. The biggest issue in that round was the distance that Helkerbeck was able to dominate, even despite being on the defense with the Doc with the larger sight, right? That's where you're looking at and saying, this is the most dangerous operator we have to deal with. Toxic babes are annoying, yes, but our most dangerous thing is going to be getting the Montaigne in through the door, and we've done the dirty work with the Rotero drone. We just need the kills to facilitate that next level of success, and that's where you had Big Papa step up to the plate. And if you're deadly with that PDW, I'm sorry to break it to you, that is one of the most scary weapons in the totality of R6. Fires 50 shots, 51 bullets technically, if you want to keep that one in the clip, and it goes crazy on the aggression, and here it goes! Big Papa and Renoki out through the gates! One for Big Papa, cupping 3 for Renoki before they'll fall, and Skimsy gets the plant down. There is nothing stopping the Western Mustangs in this map. Full brutal assault, cap off another one, Big Papa. 2 for again, and it's a 2-round start for them.
I mean, I don't know how Renoki is just allowed to swing that deep inside to the armory doorway. I mean, sure, he catches the first guy in small off his prone completely off guard, but then that guy has to call out to his teammate that, hey, this guy just swung right on in. He's getting ready to kill you now. And then there's just no response. He swings in, gets 3 in the consecutive 5 seconds. That should not be allowed to happen. They let over security control almost immediately. There's no contestation. So where's everyone grouped up for Western Mustangs? All on the armored balcony, ready to group up, follow Renoki and Big Papa behind them, get that plant down, and just another dominant round win for UWO. I don't know what Windsor's doing to try to deny this. We kind of talked about this. This isn't a map you have to sit back and just let them come to you. No, you have to get aggressive, put the pressure onto them, and make them make all the mistakes.
When you know that they're going to be playing this aggressively, which you've now seen in round 1 and round 2, you've got to meet your maker. You've got to get into the action as well. You've got to meet that level of aggression and keep them at bay. But I think the shocking thing is going to be the rude awakening they're going to get in this round. This objective isn't a super fast Russian objective 9 times out of 10. It is a much slower, take that second floor, dominate top-down control. Yes, you want to breach in through the window by vending, but you're not that concerned with the end of the day when you can have hatch in bathroom and all of that second floor control to dominate Darth Vader style or Anakin Skywalker style, that top 4 control. And maybe I might technically should say Obi-Wan style if you want to be hyper specific, but
yeah,
sometimes you can get it from the bottom ground. We saw that happen around 7 of the first half of our first map of Chalet where you lose it from below somehow, but it is what it is. I don't think the Western Mustangs are going to play hyper aggressive in this round. I think they're going to play much slower. And if we do see Windsor try to play this super fast game and meet and match what the Western Mustangs have done to this point, it's going to be the wrong time to do so. I think one more round. Then you take a timeout, you talk things through after the fact, you say, how did they beat us last time we saw this next objective? How did it work out for yourselves? What can we do next? And try to reevaluate from there. 2, and changing up your whole strategy may be a bit too quick for them.
Ooh, Elkerbex is just already taking a little bit of damage, and he seems to be the only one still stuck in the middle of office trying to fight his way through Fountain. Sexy Dark Phantom is going to start us off with a kill onto Big Papa, but he loses his teammate on the other side of the map right behind it, so now he's all alone on this upstairs roam. He needs to somehow fight his way back to the site safely, but he can't do that. He's being cut off by Skimsy.
Even 3-on-3. Firefight from below, still working out. Honestly, Hishe is in a pretty darn good spot here. Just needed assisting fire and was able to find it. R6 tracker Skimsy goes down. A really rough spot to be in, all things considered. And even more so when you've got these Legion goo mines tapping into your ankles and causing all of the attempts to quickly swing an angle in near perpetuity and silence to go now completely noticed. You can't set up for a flank watch. You can't set up those air dabs as effectively as you necessarily would want to. And I think they're maybe even teasing the idea of heading down that staircase as well. They can't necessarily make up their mind, and they need information. You've got 2 more drones in the back pocket, Beamer. What are you doing with that information? What are you doing with that active utility? You need something to snuff out the player of Sonic. You may even need to find some of the other roamers that are extended offside as well, because Mist's inside server, and you won't notice that they're here unless you knew they were there in the first place. And I just don't know how much intel they truly have here.
Seems like there's not a ton left. The only one who actually has a drone actually up and ready to go is going to be Beamer, so he needs to actually start to use them to kind of get some of these information onto where Minsk and the last roamer Sonic is. Otherwise, it's only 1 player on site. They're just dumping in utility, trying to clear out some space. But at this point, No Name's just allowed to swing on out into the middle of bathroom. Shay's going to be the last one left, trying to get things done in a 1v3, but there's not really much room he has left. He's just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he's going to be the only one left, not able to do a damn thing in work server room.
You can call a lot of what this defensive position turns into as roamers, but it's more so just a stationary extension. And that's the great thing about that objective for the defense. You can play it like a roam game. You can have a person on the second floor kind of prowling around. You can even have two, like we saw coming out for Windsor there. But most of your sight hold isn't the objective itself. It's the players surrounding it. Because it's so darn difficult to extend into that objective safely in any capacity, let alone direct, despite there being a very open window directly into the objective of tellers to try and take control of that space. And the Western Mustangs just couldn't deal with that extension, couldn't deal with that stationary presence. And now that we're hitting an objective that was essentially already defended, like Chalet, you defending the second floor, even though it's a kitchen and dining, you're still extending over there. We just saw a very effective extension over here into server from the side of Windsor just the prior round. They're going to be able to near repeat the same thing here. 2 players up on the second floor, if not 3, maybe a couple more inside of Armory instead of having more so over towards the office side. But the idea is the same. They're there for an extension. You vacate the premises beyond that, and you play for very long angles from the backside of server to keep them out of B, and you play very far angles from security to hold down servers when that gets a little bit too hot from the high pressure from above as well.
Big problem of what went wrong for Western Mustangs was that, yeah, I got it eventually. But
I believe in
just the big problem for them was just the fact that they didn't have a lot of information. They were down to 3 drones left, so couldn't find those last few extensions, as you mentioned, just kind of around the bomb site and near the map as well. Just need to get a little bit more consolidation onto where these last few players are, get an idea, pinch upon them, because you've been doing it so well. Finding those gaps, getting that space, and getting those kills is going to be very important for Western Mustangs to try to get in, get that early control, and then start applying a pressure onto the bomb site. But that's a really kind of scrappy gunfight. He's somehow able to get away with that after all that, but somehow still even after all that.
Finally, First Blood will be wrought out once again now for the Western Mustangs. Beamer McLovin, great shots connecting. Because he's very low, you know that it's just about any moment in time that things are going to go awry. And when you're the player that needs to be almost solely responsible majority of times of clearing out those floorboards and even some hatches that are left soft, your life is so darn important. Combo in, you got the pocket heart breaches on top. So your hatch responsibility is even more fluent than it necessarily usually would be. Big Papa up for their 6th kill in this map so far, only in round 4. Able to get a nice long shot fire to the player trying to rotate in from the outside, making use of that main entrance, denying that doorway control back over there towards stock. Elkerbex is in a pretty big firefight of their own against Renoki. Renoki somehow still up into the action, gets the swing back in return, and the Ash, the main weapon for your R4C, you can bring it out on Ram as well, why don't you? It comes up, it kills, and Big Papa does the same fell swoop as well. 1 player left, and it's a flawless round with Renoki securing the kill. Western Mustangs, that last round's a fluke, baby. They're saying they're still got the high rise. They're still moving in with pressure.
And I don't know exactly what happened in that round. Just all of a sudden, there was a player dropping down the bathroom hatch and just getting the smoke out of the way, and then just establishing so much pressure onto the player that's still left in the bomb site. He's the only one left, and then he has 3 people just kind of aiming all their gun sights at him. He has nowhere left to go. How did Western Michigan find such a huge gap in that round where it was just almost kind of lights out from there? Windsor almost extending a little bit too much and not really applying enough pressure to make it to where it's harder to get in, not really let them into the bomb site, because I don't know how, but a player walked in from, I want to say, West Main area as well as the bathroom, and then there's players up above putting pressure from the hatch. You can't go anywhere. Just the players on the complete opposite end of the map can't do anything about it because, well, they're just watching the wrong things. They're expecting a completely different play and not watching out for that, but they left a huge gap in return.
It's a give and take. It's a game of tug of war, right? Serious. You got to pull a little bit, but at the same time, you've got to take that step back when you pull a little bit too hard. And that's when you're the most unreliable with your balance. That's when the opposing side of the rope goes, oh my goodness, They're standing on one leg. Let's tug quite hard at this exact moment. And I think we're seeing that really well from the Western Mustangs. I've almost said Western Michigan again. Like you did earlier. You've got that in my head. You've got that in my head now. I avoided that so well in map 1. Now it's in my head. It's going to continue to come out. They're playing a game of push and pull, and it's just turning out so much better for the attacking side because they have that reliability of this aggression. That unsatisfactory answer saying, I can push in at any moment, and you are just going to be victimized by whatever assault we ring forward. And when you can master a fuse play here, you try to hope it works out well for you, but somehow Beamer McLovin, who entered in the prior round, gets cut off first this time. And a second one for Big Papa. That's your 7th kill player that's off the board. That's a rough start here for the Western Mustangs.
And I liked their bit of ingenuity on getting that jail wall open, but just seems that that's may have been it at this point. They're already down 2 people and still trying to get this top floor control and secure it because Renoki still thinks there might be someone over on those east stairs. There's certainly people over there, and Sonic's on the complete opposite end, so applying a little bit of pressure still. They are still having to clear out these last few roamers. We're just looking to drop back down, possibly get back to the bomb site because they did finally get at least 1 kill onto Helkerbex, so there is starting to be some pressure established onto the bomb site, but at the same time, roam clear has not been as fully established.
Myth still working in from the top of East Stairs. Doesn't feel like they have a great way to really fight from here. Long range with that SMG is pretty darn good, but doesn't have the scope reliability you're necessarily asking for. If you can catch Renoki in this extension out of Main Hall, then you'd be in a perfect place to give your team an even further man advantage. When you already know that you give an inch to the Western Mustangs and they'll charge through it like a horse, straight through the gates. They'll find their way into your back line, and that's the exact problem we saw them face in round 1 and round 4, more specifically, just taking that speed and aggression through very strong chokeholds that should have been denied in the first place. This is a tough one to really get out of, and Minsk is looking for the best option forward, and what a tap to Renoki's head. That's going to put the hatchet essentially completely for the side here of Western Mustangs as they get desperate to climb in somewhere else, and it puts them into a frost mat, and unfortunately now puts them in an effective, pretty rough spot, I would say. It was a 1v3 for a moment there, but apparently Skimsy's not done, and they're going up and getting back into it.
Much more doable round. They're trying to get the plant down. Sonic trying to throw in an impact to get the spot onto the planter, but he's actually get it down successfully. Minsk, the player up above, may be able to get an angle. They're actually able to get out of the bomb site safely. He now has to hop out and try to get aggressive onto them, but he's going to leave himself exposed for a second.
This is the worst case scenario. Minsk was not there in time to assist with the actual denial. Now needs to be a whole lot safer, has to get greedy, and the greed pays off. This ain't bank, baby. We're here on the border. You gotta keep them in control. You gotta stay on patrol, and that upper floor wasn't doing too much for you. You're stepping back down to the first. You come in after the fact. If you couldn't be the end-all, be-all player to start this round out, you'll be it to finish it. And that gives the Windsor side a much-needed round win, and one more away from possibly tying up what seemed to be a very dominant and dominating oppressive start from the Western Mustangs. And they're heading on over to Bathroom and Tellers that they've already found a very good foothold within.
I mean, still, overall, a great round from Western. I keep wanting to say Western Michigan.
I know.
It wanting to slip on out. I don't. It's so easy. It's right there. But Western Mustangs, there I got it that time, seem to really spot out a lot of the gaps that UWN is just kind of leaving out on the board, because that was a surefire round that they should have won a lot more decisively. But they found a big gap in supply, got the plant down, and then just kind of tried to move on out. But at that point, the defenders are nowhere you're likely going to be, have to hop out, get aggressive, and double swing onto you and get that final kill. And they did that to absolute perfection, but I still worry about it because they've been leaving a lot of gaps here and there that Western Mustangs have been able to punish every so often. Granted, it hasn't always led to a round win, but still, the fact that it keeps showing up is a sign of concern for me, so we'll have to see if they do clean up for the last round of the defense.
Like you said, it's the very last round. It's your very last chance. And if you can't find an even foothold here, now moving over to the attack after this round ends, you're going to be giving Western Mustangs, not Western Michigan, the Western Mustangs, their favored side for what they just had and what they just did to you on the previous map of Chalet. That is a memory, despite the long break, that they're not going to forget, and they're going to have to move beyond, and they need to do that very quickly. They're just so close to that danger zone. Great information from Sonic. Swings that corner like a rabid animal. Down goes Beaver and McLovin, who they've had such a solid start to this with utility, clearing out space, taking control of areas, but they haven't been able to find any kills because they almost always are either first blood with their one kill they had 3 rounds prior, or they are the first blood. Like we've now seen 2 rounds in a row coming out here for the Western Mustangs. Something has to change, and it's too late to do so in this first half. And even Firefight, though, just dropped things to a 3-on-3, but Sexy Dark Phantom get down, and now you're back up in favor for the Western Mustangs, and that's a lot of footprints. That's a lot of information you can now use for yourself.
They're going to know exactly where No Name is in the middle of the site, so Minsk is going to be the one player they don't know fully about unless they start to get a drone onto him. So they can start to play around that information, try to collapse upon that smoke, make sure that he has no way to deny this plant, has no use for those smoke babes, because it does seem they're going to try to get this plant down soon. Minsk is going to have to cover from very far away, but he may not be able to do it safely.
Ooh, Renoki down in the process. A Toxic Babe will be forced out, and Renoki just barely hiding below the toxic fumes of the Babe, and a re-swing by No Name. Big Papa ain't letting that one go, baby. Minsk now the only one remaining for the side here of Uwin. The Aruni barricade, sorry, not the Aruni, the Azami barricade, the Kiba barricade does give them a sightline safely off towards the B site, but Bathroom is up for the taking. And you've got to take a very dangerous prone position to have any sort of chance to deny that drop through hatch. And a single flashbang throws all of those odds out the window as they stack up behind the very solid surface and attempt to get this plant down, and will do so well. A 4-2 half now, guaranteed for the Western Mustangs as they transition over to defense on border. And they already did exceptionally well on Chalet. This is going to be a tough half for Uwin, but they are very capable. We've seen it on this map of closing it out.
Ooh, just another case of just constant gaps being spotted out by Western Mustangs, and they just do it to absolute perfection. So just that top floor roam, while they did get 2 kills to start things off, they were immediately pounced upon, immediately traded out because of the fact they were surrounded. There's nowhere left for them to go, and just Western Mustangs, all they have to do is just sit calmly back, get those collapse trades, and then just move on and clear the bomb site itself. Did that so well, and the only slip up was No Name just kind of swinging on out very aggressively onto the hatch initially, went for the aggressive re-swing and lost the fight, and then Minsk is just all alone in the middle of vents, can't do a thing about it. He just has to fight that very tough angle from the hatch, and I mean, otherwise, a very dominant half from Western Mustangs, just really securing that control all over the map. And I would have expected them to do the exact same thing, apply pressure when they need to, and then fall back a little bit closer to the bomb site, because that's been their textbook play so far. Windsor, however, really need to kind of figure out what they want to go for, and bringing out the Ying, I like that, because that does show a sign of a bit of aggression that they really need to show.
Yeah, but they're meeting that aggression with the Ying with a glass. This is where I'm seeing like this, I won't say half-hearted attempt, but it does feel a little like they're not getting the bigger picture for what they're trying to go for. They're still trying to play both sides, so they always come out on top. R6 is a game where you can't really play both sides. You can't really try to get the best of both worlds. You have to commit to one and see the bigger picture to completion. And the Glass, really good at dominating control over these positions. We can see right here, has a great long fire angle, but you would have already had more success controlling that space if you had opted for instead the Ying, a Rotero, and a Montaigne instead, if you really wanted to go on big with it, to get that safe space into that area, to find that control. Because already your Ying that we were so harping on, that end-all be-all entry, you were really hoping to find success in the Candelas and the so darn good LG in your hands, off the board from Big Papa, and it's just gotten worse. You've lost another one. You'd got your flank watch off the board, and well, half your flank watch. You also brought a Nomad, I guess. You're not finding much success back.
Just keeps falling apart for Windsor, and now it's only down to 2 people. They only have 1 smoke left. He is actually able to get one player on the eastern balk, so he is actually getting a little bit closer to being even, but he's taken so many aggressive stances. He's kind of on an island, and he's just going to be swung out by the player who's still swinging out from balcony. Western Mustangs starting off the defensive hot, just denying that aggressive play that they were trying to set up for that entire round.
5-2 the split. The Western Mustangs put a big solid start here for it. And honestly, I was half expecting it to be another great start for them with Big Papa getting a spawn peak like they did in round 7 on the map of Chalet. They're going for it. It's very aggressive. It's very greedy. And if it works out for you, if you know that the player can step up big and get those kills, feed the beast, pass the rock. You're not going to tell an NFL caliber quarterback that can only throw to now start running the ball because you need a little bit of extra success. Not everyone can be Lamar Jackson. You need to play to the strengths of those players in their respective roles. And Big Papa's role fits their name. Let Big Papa eat, right? Give them the space to go in for the spawn peaks. You already let them swing in first. You let them use the Inox scanner on the attack. You let them dominate the roam game and hunt for those players. A true carnivore in sheep's clothing you would anticipate on the defense, and still somehow manages to come out with a belly full of the competition at the end of a defensive round when you'd expect them to maybe be in a little bit more trouble. This is the type of player that you really need in a roster like this to punish teams that don't have an answer for it. Because from what we saw in map 1 and what we're already seeing here, I don't think UN has an answer for Big Papa's playstyle. They're not used to this. You don't bring out that style of play in scrims. You don't bring out that style of play in your average competitive match. So they don't have that experience, it seems. And Big Papa's just, there's no way to punish them unless you get this kill. And you need a little bit more information, and it's just not there. That should be droned before you ever swing that Sonic.
Just an unfortunate start. I was about to mention that Helker beats on the Jackal could have been a counter to the fact that he's being so aggressive on this map, but already starting us off with another entry pick, just swinging out that west main door is a horrible start, especially on a map, or on a bomb site rather, where you have to get that vertical control. They do still have the ram, but having a buck would have also been nice. Having a little bit of extra maneuverability to try to clear out vents, or secure, or workshop it rather, as well. On top of that, would have been nice to kind of collapse upon this roam that Western Mustangs have been bringing. So they're still kind of just running around doing whatever they want. They're controlling the pace and the momentum in these rounds, and Windsor hasn't really been able to control that even with the Jackal here.
Around the corner, Helkerbeck's trying to find any sort of success with a kill. It's been pretty silent since the initial first frag coming out from Big Papa. There's plenty of information still being gathered. The drones are doing their due diligence, but it's total silence up on that second floor. And they're going to have to start breaking through those hatches as the floorboards themselves are proving to be quite untrustworthy for the own assaulting team of UN. They truly are misusing the Anakin Skywalker saying of controlling the high ground. They're finding themselves the same success as him. And it gets even worse when you've lost the player through the hatches, through the floorboard, through the hellholes that have been created, and you've lost Helkerbeck's and a DB node stayed up inside main hall. And you can see the Z-Pings praying, there's, hey, staircase, please, there's someone there, there's something happening. Given the covering fire, you get the player up, but what does that give you in this space? 2 Inox scanners and a weapon to fire back. And I was really going to be shocked if Skimsy tagged something there because Canadian No Name's already about to go down. The Mossberg secures it.
Serious?
You cannot be serious.
I don't know how he keeps getting away with that. Renoki just doesn't even care about the floorboards above him being open. He's still swinging this and getting kills off of it, putting them into an even worse position. 2v5 with 30 seconds left. They barely have any utility to facilitate and execute at this point. They just have to get desperate, drop down this hatch, get these kills, because at this point, Big Papa may be ready to go flank now and just end the round right now.
15 seconds left.
Flashbang goes through. Drop through hatch has to be employed. 10 seconds remaining. Time is very quickly running out for the 2 remaining players on UN. XC Dark Phantom tries to swing through security, can't make it, and it's a flawless defensive round. To not just secure match point now on the map of Border, but match point and series point for the whole total of this series. And we could see the scoreline be even more dominating than we did in the first map of Chalet, as we start off with yet another drought on the attack coming out from UN. They just don't have an answer for how to pressure this defense that's so stalwart that's coming out from the Western Mustangs.
I mean, we kind of talked about in the pregame how Western Mustangs have been getting aggressive at the right times and then falling back almost immediately afterwards. Big Papa got the entry kill onto Sonic, and then what did he do? Played a little bit more passive, played around his team, kind of tried to find time and find the gaps to go for a flank later in the round. But it wasn't really needed because at that point, Windsor just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. They're just kind of scrambling around. We kind of just saw the Habana after they started opening up that vent hatch, kind of just walked right into his own teammate's gadget, and they just took damage from below from Renoki, who's still swinging everything. They're not even trying to check properly for the floorboard angles, and then losing to those fights. They just seem like they're just kind of lost at this point. They just have no idea what the plan really is because, like you said, they can't shut down the aggressive plays, and they sure as hell can't deal with the more passive play on the bomb site itself.
It's almost like that passivity ends up becoming a new form of aggression, just kind of brought about in a new scenario. I don't know entirely why UN are not finding their foothold completely, but they're droning. We're seeing it. Serious. We're seeing the drones come around corners. Not early enough, I would say. You gave Big Papa that first one in that restaurant. That was very unfortunate, but we're seeing the drones come out. We're seeing them try to get effective footwork in essentially with the drones, but we're just not seeing that be actively utilized. The information that's gathered isn't being derived in anything successful past that point, and it needs to change. They're working majority-wise here from the northwest side. They've left 2 players off to repel the opposing in just to get them a footwork over towards that high mezzanine side, but it's a Helkerbex who opens things up with the first blood. It's just refragged so fast by Hishe back towards Sonic.
And another one where it's not a great operator to lose in return because that's a buck on Event Workshop defense. That's kind of a big pick. Again, they still had the ramp, but it wasn't really utilized that well. Helkerbex is going to get a second kill in the round, so they've at least got armory control for the time being. But do they know that? But they didn't clear CC! So Big Papa, again, just getting 2 kills, equalizes things and puts them into the man advantage.
They have to maintain this if they want to send this out of this in a 7-2 split. With control still handily held inside security, you have so many questions to ask for you when you have control over this majority of armory, but you're not working the second floor. You need to bring yourself down onto the first, and Misks is the only player here to do so. Trying to work in from main entrance, trying to find effective force, needs to rotate back the other way, and there's plenty of time to do so, which just spells an even further dire strait. The fact that you're only down to 2 players and there's 1 minute and 45 seconds left in the round. It should never be so bad so quickly. And the Western Mustangs know what they've got to do, and it's to hold that top control and isolate the individuals that's given to them. Blood goes to Big Papa, and Skimsy should have been dead to rights, but Mitz couldn't get it. And it goes back towards them instead. It's a GG no re 7-2 hold on the map of Border. And the Western Mustangs will take this series 2-0.
And just in most dominant fashion you'll probably ever see just in this series alone, because on Chalet, they started off very even. It was kind of back and forth that entire time, and then once they switched, it was even more lights out, only dropping a single